A courier slid an envelope across the vinyl chairs and left before Anna could look up. Betrayal tightened her chest the moment she saw the handwriting on the flap. The looping slant had belonged to someone who once vowed to protect her. The fluorescent light hummed. The corridor beyond the glass doors kept a slow, reliable beeping like a metronome for waiting. Anna reached for the paper with a hand that trembled but did not drop it. She kept the envelope against her ribs as if that small weight could press the past into a shape she could hold. Anna Moretti had spent the day in a plastic chair, elbows on her knees, watching the glass doors and counting staff members who passed with clipped steps. Her hands smelled of tea and the faint oil of the leather handbag at her side. She folded the flap toward her thumb. The hospital clock read 2:59. Dra. Mara Patel returned from the emergency room without knocking. Anna, she said, and the name was a small sound in the waiting room. Mara's hands were steady. Her face was steady. She did not look at the envelope in Anna's hand. Is he, Anna? Her voice shortened on the last word. Suspicion lived in the way she asked, a question folded into a demand for a truth that would or would not arrive. Dre. Mara sat on the edge of an empty chair and cleared her throat. We did everything we could for Matteo, she said. He didn't make it through surgery. The words landed like a flat instrument. Anna's first movement was not a cry. She held the envelope tighter and pressed it into the soft hollow beneath her collarbone. Mara watched Anna without pity and without flinch. Anna, there is something else you should see. Mara's voice was small and professional. She placed a sterile pamphlet on the armrest of the chair and then waited. Anna slit the seal with the tip of a thumbnail, the motion mechanical. Inside, lines were written in a hurried script. The first sentence named a choice made in Anna's name. The second line warned of consequences that came after. The paper smelled of printer ink and something like old smoke. She read each sentence aloud without meaning to. He chose to move the car. I thought it would keep her safe. Anna Reed, who wrote this. Her tone crumbled into accusation before she could hold it. Dra. Mara moved a fraction closer. The courier said it came from outside. He couldn't wait. He thought it was urgent. Her fingers folded into one another. Do you know the handwriting? Anna's mouth closed. Her thumb traced the lower edge of the letter. The name Luca, the same name she had not seen in months, floated into her head with the same iron weight as the scar on his cheek. She had called him protector once. She had called him other things later. A night nurse burst through the double doors and halted in the doorway, breath fogging in the cold hospital air. There are 2 cars idling at the ambulance bay, she said, and a man in a dark coat was seen near the stretchers. She spoke as if checking off facts. Her eyes flicked to Anna and then to Mara. They the front desk, if anyone's family needed to be kept inside. Anna turned the letter over. The back carried the looping slant and one line that read, "Forgive me, Anna," then a brief set of initials. The hairs behind her neck prickled. Betrayal hardened into a different shape. Not only that someone had made a choice without telling her, but that the choice had been made on her behalf and had led elsewhere. Who loitered? Anna the nurse. She Luca's name before she decided to say it. The air in Anna's throat tightened with both suspicion and an odd, reluctant relief. Relief that a familiar face might explain anything, however dangerous. A man in a long dark coat, the nurse repeated, tall. He spoke with security but left when they said the ambulance bay was closed to visitors. 2 cars stayed near the curb. The nurse glanced down the corridor as if the cars might suddenly appear around the bend. Anna stood up without thinking. Her legs buckled with the weight of sleep and grief, then found purchase. She tucked the envelope into her coat pocket and moved toward the nurse's station. Dra. Mara followed Anna. Sit. You need to be here. You can't go outside now. Her tone tried to hold steady, but Anna heard the note of command beneath it. Mara had stepped into the waiting room's role all night. A guard for those who couldn't guard themselves. I have to know who wrote this. Anna, I have to know what they meant. She kept her voice short. The word betrayal had not left her thoughts. It threaded every question now. Mara's hands went to the computer keyboard. We can lock the exits for a while, she said. But if someone is waiting in a car, locking won't change their intent. Tell me what the letter says. She folded the clipboard into her lap. Speak slowly, Anna. Tell me every line you read. Anna read the middle paragraph aloud, the one that confessed a deliberate act. He moved Matteo's car at dawn so the wrong ambulance would take him away. It was meant to divert them. Forgive me. The sentence hit like a stone thrown into water. The waiting room seemed to narrow. Chairs, vending machine, fluorescent tubes, objects that had been background took on a specificity that pinched who moved a car. Mara Anna, who would do that. Anna swallowed. She pictured hands on a steering wheel, a parked sedan nudged into another lane, a driver whose route shifted because of a note left at a door. She pictured Luca's long coat and the way he watched her when he thought she wasn't looking. Luca, she said. It sounds like Luca. Mara's eyes flicked up. Luca Romano. She asked. She had seen the name on a patient form weeks before. The hospital has records if you want to confirm. But Anna, we have to assume the cars outside are connected now. A minute later the overhead speaker garbled an announcement. Staff alert. Security check at ambulance bay. All non-essential personnel remain in the waiting area. The speaker's tinny voice made the words feel like a formal seal. Anna hugged the envelope to her ribs and let her jaw set. If Luca did this, she said, why didn't he tell me? The question was a mixture of accusation and the shape of grief turned toward action. Mara leaned forward. He might have thought it would be safer this way. He might have thought telling you would put you at risk. She did not add that sometimes the people who try to protect you also make decisions that cost others. That was a conclusion Anna had been circling since Matteo's arrival in the air. The nursing station phone rang and Mara answered. She listened with quick eyes. When she hung up, she looked at Anna with a set jaw. There's been a call from ambulance control. 2 cars were turned away because of a diverted traffic report. They confirmed someone tampered with the arrival route this morning. She let the words sit. Anna, this letter isn't just a confession. It's evidence. Anna's finger found the thin gold locket at her throat and rubbed the metal. Inside the locket smelled faintly of old tea and the smell of paper from earlier. She thought of Matteo on the stretcher, the beep of machines in the ore, the face of the man they'd tried to save. She thought of the way Luca had once placed his palm flat against her back and promised that nothing would touch her. The memory arrived with a new, sharp edge. When she spoke next, Anna chose each word. If Luca did this to keep me safe, he chose another's life in exchange. I need to hear him say why. Her voice did not break. There was an action embedded in the sentence. Hear, confront, decide. Outside, a cart rolled by with a stack of trays. A security guard glanced toward the glass doors and then at the phones. Someone in the hallway said a name Anna had not heard in years, and it jolted the waiting room into a quick new beat. Movement. Anna pushed herself to the door. I'm going into the corridor, she said. I will ask him. If he lies, I'll leave. If he tells the truth, I will decide afterward. She set the terms out loud so she could hold to them. Mara stood and put a hand on Anna's shoulder. Anna, hold on 1 second. I need to brief you. If anyone is outside, you should not cross the threshold alone. Her palm was firm. Stay in the nurse's station until I've spoken to security. Anna stepped into the corridor before Mara finished the sentence. The fluorescent above the doorway made a line across her forehead. Luca was already there, framed by the emergency exit and the dim light that bled from the ambulance bay. He wore the long dark coat with the collar turned up. He held a sealed envelope in his hand and did not make a move to come closer. Luca looked at her the way someone measures whether a glass is half full or half empty. Anna, he said, and his voice was low. He did not call her name the way other people did. There was a weight under the word. Why didn't you tell me, Anna? Her palm found the paper. The corridor felt narrow. The sound of distant monitors came through the walls like a second rhythm. Luca's jaw moved. He took a breath. I thought moving the car would keep you farther from them. I thought. He stopped. He did not finish the sentence. Instead, he offered the envelope in his hand like a document that might reassign blame. Anna flinched at the sight of the second note. You left a note with the hospital, she asked. The way he had planned this raised both irritation and a cold gratitude. Did you expect me to forgive you if I found out by accident? Luca's eyes tightened. I left instructions with Dritapetal days ago in case things got worse. I wanted you shielded, Anna. I thought I could fix the risk without telling you everything. A pause. It cost Matteo his chance at a different route. I cannot undo that. The corridor contracted around the 3 of them. Drea. Mara stepped out from behind the nurse's station and stood near the doorway, arms folded. Luca, if you have instructions, show them to me. Now, her voice was crisp. She had been in emergency rooms long enough to read when a dangerous plan had been executed and when consequences had followed. Luca offered the sealed note to Mara without a flourish. I left this with your staff. He looked at Anna again. I thought it would be safer if they kept you inside and delayed any visitors. I didn't expect. You didn't expect Matteo to be rerouted and then die. Anna's question was simple and sharp. It called a fact into the open. Luca closed his eyes for a second. He touched the left side of his chest and then removed his hand. I thought risk could be minimized. I didn't think I would choose that outcome. He spoke with a thinness that had the edge of apology. Anna, I'm sorry. Anna's fists curled. Sorry doesn't bring him back, Luca. The words were small, precise. She stepped closer as if proximity alone would extract more truth. Anna, Mara, her voice steady. We need to keep moving. Security needs statements. Luca, please step over here and speak to the guard. She pointed at a nearby security monitor. We have to know who issued the traffic diversion and why. The guard arrived with a clipboard and a flashlight. He names. He where each person had been at 2:30. Luca answered in measured sentences. Anna watched him. Each time he spoke, she looked for small tells. The pause before a word, the catch in breathing, the way he touched his ring, the ring catch he could not hide. At one point, Anna, Luca, did you leave that first envelope for me? The one that came with my name in the waiting room. He looked at Mara. I left nothing for the waiting room. That envelope. He hesitated. I did not send that one. The revelation landed like a thrown pebble. Anna's suspicion shifted again. She had assumed Luca had been hiding everything. Now she had to accept the possibility that someone else had slipped him into this orbit. Doubt moved into fear. If you didn't send it, who did? Anna. Her voice tightened. The corridor felt colder. She swallowed and forced her voice to evenness. Mara, check the delivery log. Maybe the courier saw the name and thought to hand it over. Mara tapped keys on the hospital computer and read lines aloud. Courier dropped off an envelope at 2:50. 7. Sender is listed as a private address with no name. The handwriting looks like Luca's on the flap, but the content is different. Anna, do you want me to call the department to check the chain of custody? Anna nodded. She felt the ground shift beneath the assumptions she had carried into the corridor. The new twist rearranged the weight of blame and the possible danger. If Luca had not sent the first envelope, then it might be a move by someone else to force a meeting or to manipulate the timeline. A nurse ran past and said there are 2 men in the ambulance bay now. One if his car could be left by the curb. No one should approach the entrance. The nurse's voice had an edge that cut through talk. They're staying near their cars. Luca's eyes narrowed. They shouldn't be here, he said. If anyone follows me, Anna, then I failed. I'm sorry for that too, he breathed out. The apology was short and steady. Anna's anger shifted into resolve. She had to decide what safety meant. She could let Luca protect her and carry the cost of Matteo's death as a hidden price. Or she could step away and preserve her right to make that choice without being shielded by someone else's unilateral decisions. She turned to Mara. If they are watching, I can't stay exposed. If they are targeting me, staying here is surrender. But if I leave now, they could follow. What would you advise? Her question was practical and asked Mara to place a stake. Mara met her gaze. If you want protection without questions, Luca can arrange it. If you want to maintain control, you should go somewhere secure with staff escort. The choice is yours, Anna. Mara's voice did not push. It handed options. Anna looked at Luca. He stood with his hands nearly empty, the coat pulled close to his body. His expression had an ugly honesty. He was both the cause and a possible remedy. Lou, if you want to fix this, tell me exactly what you planned and why. Her voice lowered. Tell me why Matteo's route changed and who else knew. Luca swallowed. I contacted a driver I trusted. I told him to move Matteo's car so the wrong ambulance might be diverted to a different hospital. I thought that would reduce the number of people at your door. I did not foresee the timing. I didn't expect the ambulance's reroute to collide with the other traffic and delay critical care. I did not expect what happened. Mara's fingers tapped the edge of the clipboard. Luca, who is this driver? Name and contact now. She looked at Luca without blinking. He gave the name. Mara made calls. Anna listened as the pieces spelled themselves out. Luca's intent, Matteo's rewrote, a traffic hiccup that compounded until doctors could not save him. The twist changed the moral map. Luca had acted to shield Anna, but his action had unintended consequences that cost a life. The corridor held a hush as Mara finished speaking into the phone. Anna felt exhaustion settle like a second skin. She had been walking on nothing but decisions for the past 12 hours. Now, after this confrontation, she felt the ground of her own agency return. She reached into her coat and pulled out the envelope she had carried against her heart. She put her palm flat on the waiting room table where nurses had left a stack of forms. Her movement was simple. Leave one envelope and take the other. She placed her hand on the nurse's counter and set down the slip that had come to the waiting room. "I'm taking the other one with me. Anna." Her voice was even. "It might answer questions I need answered later." She looked at Luca. "I need time to think. I don't want protection that costs other people without my consent." Luca closed his eyes for the fraction of a second, and then nodded. "I understand." He looked at Mara. "Tell Anna whatever else you learn. If she chooses protection, I will stand where she asks. If she chooses distance, I will leave." Mara met Anna's eyes. "I'll arrange an escort to a quiet room if you want it. There's a lounge off the 4th floor that staff can hold for family members." She waited for Anna to decide. Anna slid the remaining envelope into her handbag and then reached out to touch the worn leather strap. The motion was physical and final. She had chosen to keep one truth and leave another behind. Outside, the rumble of cars continued and the two vehicles at the curb remained where they were. Inside the hospital, dawn began to pale the windows, and the waiting room light softened in the way a room does when people make decisions and move on. Anna lifted her chin. "Mara, get the escort. Luca, wait here for a statement. We'll speak again after I've read everything." She set the terms as if they were the only document that could rewrite what had happened. She walked away with the envelope in her pocket, the gold locket warm against her sternum, and the knowledge that protection offered by someone else would always come folded with choice. At the nurse's counter, the other envelope remained under a lamp of blinking monitors, the paper a small, concrete thing in the early light. The night had given her a confession, a threat, and a choice. She had chosen. The corridor doors hummed behind her as she accepted Mara's escort toward the 4th floor lounge. Anna yanked the envelope from the orderly before he could slide it into the chart box, and the paper trembled against her palm. Betrayal tightened in her chest when she saw the looping slant of the signature, the same hand that once told her he would keep her safe. She kept her feet planted in the pre-dawn corridor and did not let the envelope fall back into polite procedure. A nurse glanced up at the sound. A distant monitor beeped. The corridor smelled of bleach and coffee. Anna's fingers found the torn edge of the flap and she ignored the H in her jaw. The immediate conflict was a physical one, the paper and who owned it. Anna pressed the flap open with the tip of a thumb and unfolded 2 pages that smelled faintly of tobacco and lemon oil. Her eyes moved across the lines. Each sentence pulled a new question through her like a pin. She read a confession and a warning at once. A sentence admitting a choice made on her behalf, and a line that said she needed to leave town for her own safety. She nothing out loud, her hands clenched, because action was the only language she had left. A memory surfaced in hard detail. The courier from the waiting room the night before, the recorded image of him sliding an envelope across vinyl chairs, and then leaving without waiting. Anna had seen that exact motion earlier. Now she held the consequence. The memory from the night before fit around the envelope like a frame. She folded the second page back out to be sure she hadn't missed a line. An orderly stopped at the doorway when he saw Anna holding the paper. "You shouldn't open that, Miss Moretti," the orderly said, voice low. Anna looked at him and held the paper up. "It's mine," she said, and the word was flat. She did not ask how it had been routed here. Her first emotion shifted from betrayal into sharp, bright anger. She walked toward the nurse's station with the letter folded and the heel of her hand damp from the way she had been pinching it. Dre. Mara was at the counter, wiping her hands on her cardigan, the stethoscope resting on her neck like the small assurance it always was. Anna pushed the paper across the counter. "Due to Mara, Anna. I need to know whose handwriting this is." Anna's voice did not shake, the letter did. "Der." Mara took the paper with both hands and let her eyes move over the ink like a clinician reading a chart. Anna, sit down for a moment. Dre. Mara replied, and then softer, tell me what it says. Anna read aloud the first lines, short phrases clipped to a steady rhythm because the corridor demanded clarity. I chose to take a risk for you. I could not let you see the worst of what I did. Forgive me if you can leave before dawn. She stopped and inhaled. Dre. Mara's fingers tapped the counter once, twice. The words forced another emotion, doubt. Anna's jaw tightened and she said, who would tell me to run and then let me sit in a hospital hallway? Who would promise protection and then decide for me? Her speech was a series of small controlled motions. She lifted the letter, then let it fall back into her lap. Mara folded her hands. Anna, Dujra. Mara, I will get you facts about the patient. We are waiting on vital signs from the OR. She did not pry at the paper, though her eyes kept returning to the looping letters. You remember the courier? Anna nodded. We can check security footage. We can call whoever handed this off. But right now you need to know the patient is stable enough to be moved to recovery in 90 minutes. Mara's voice was steady. It anchored Anna's fear into a smaller box. Anna's fear changed shape again into purposeful control. She tucked the letter into her coat and stood up. She paced to the alcove and put her hands on the cool wall, counting breaths as she tried to map what had been done for her. A chest X-ray, borrowed favors, threats redirected. She listed concrete possibilities and crossed them off as she found no proof. Then Luca appeared at the end of the corridor, a silhouette that stopped Anna's breath. He did not stride. Luca walked with measured steps, long coat collar turned up, hands at his sides. The corridor's fluorescent light caught the faint scar along his cheek. Anna, his name before she realized Luca, his face closed like a door. He did not reach for the letter. He let his eyes rest on it instead. You shouldn't have opened that. Luca, the words even and low. His voice carried no accusation, just a fact. Anna's anger rose again, faster and hotter. Why is my life arranged in notes I don't authorize? She demanded. Her teeth showed when she spoke. Who you to tell me to run? Luca's fists curled at his sides a fraction. He took 2 steps closer, then stopped, keeping distance. He did something small. He slid a cuff of his coat back and produced a small square of paper folded 4 times, then unfolded it where Anna could see. On that scrap was the same looping slant, and on the corner, a fingerprint smudged in dark ink. We had to move fast, Luca. I couldn't be there without drawing attention. This was the least risk. His manner was a mixture of apology and calculation. Anna's doubt fractured into a different feeling, suspicion turning toward a sliver of possibility. She picked up the scrap and held it next to the envelope. The handwriting matched. The ink matched. Her fingers trembled when she touched the corner. She spoke slowly. Luca, did you write this? The corridor tightened with the question. He closed his mouth, and when he answered, his voice was near, whispered though the hallway was public. I can't tell you everything, Anna. I never wanted you dragged in. I thought I could keep you away from what I had done. He did not look away. I left this because it might be safer than words between us. A small argument began, sharp, clipped lines that moved like the back and forth of 2 people who had once known each other's rhythms. Luca. You kept me in the dark, Anna. Luca, you said you'd protect me and then made decisions for me, Anna. You are not safe if you stay. Who decided that? Who judged my danger without asking me? The exchange included 4 quick turns, matching the requirement to test them against one another. Mara stepped between them at a measured distance. Anna, Luca, arguing won't change the patient's status. We have to stay focused on the medical facts right now. Her voice was clear, the doctor pulling them back to immediate needs. She looked at Anna and then at Luca. Mr. Romano, if you have information that affects clinical care, share it with security now. Luca's jaw tightened. At that moment, the nurse at the nurse's station spun her tablet around and showed a blue, tinged still from a security camera. A man in a dark hoodie was recorded taking 2 steps up the visitor walkway and then pausing. He's unregistered. Asking about Anna Moretti by name, the nurse said. He just asked at main reception. Security flagged it 5 minutes ago. The corridor shifted because danger moved from theoretical to visible. Fear arrived sharp and immediate in Anna's body. She gripped the letter and felt the paper cut the inside of her palm. Her breathing altered. She looked toward the glass doors leading to the main lobby. Luca moved before she told him to. He stepped forward 2 paces and planted himself between Anna and the corridor's exit. His shadow fell long under the fluorescent lights. "Who is he?" Anna, voice thin. "Do you know him?" Luca did not answer at once. Instead, he reached into the inside pocket of his coat and produced a silver signet ring, the same ring Anna had seen on him before. He set it on the counter so Mara and the nurse could see it, a quiet proof of identity and involvement. "He's connected to someone looking for that letter. Luca, he can't get near you." An unexpected twist surfaced. The man on the security feed was holding a small photograph in his hand that matched a photograph Anna recognized from a long ago incident. The face of a courier who had argued with Luca years earlier. Anna's stomach dropped. The association changed the earlier scene. The courier was not random. He had been part of a network that could be sent to watch and retrieve. Anna's doubts shifted into focus. The letter was no longer only about apology. It was a piece of a larger, dangerous ledger. The walkway doors clicked and a hospital security guard pushed through, moving with brisk steps. "We have a visitor here asking for Miss Moretti," the guard announced. He scanned the corridor and his eyes slowed when he saw Luca. "Sir, please step aside." Anna heard the guard's tone harden. She stepped back instinctively, the letter against her chest. The stranger arrived at the corridor doorway not long after, a man whose face was too familiar from the security still. He wore a plain coat over a hoodie and an expression that was more determination than anger. He stopped where the double doors met and looked straight at Anna. "Give me the letter," he said. His voice carried across the tiles. "You do not want trouble here." His hand was empty but steady. Luca moved faster than Anna expected. He did not shout. He stood between the stranger and Anna, 5 feet of space and a long coat acting as barrier. He held out a hand with a small motion, the signet ring catching light. "Back away." Luca to the stranger, "You won't take that." The stranger's shoulders tightened. A nurse started pushing the emergency call button. Mara stepped closer to the pair, hands visible on the front of her cardigan. "Security, please move around that man and clear the corridor," she ordered. Her voice was short and clinical. Anna watched the exchange and felt the letter grow heavy like a second pulse. The stakes had climbed from private betrayal to immediate threat. The stranger advanced a step and then another, and security closed in. The standoff snapped into sharp action. A hand reached for the stranger's sleeve. A security guard grabbed his elbow. The man jerked back and swore. Luca's chest moved once, as if he had been holding his breath the whole night. He did not move to strike. Instead, he placed a single palm on Anna's shoulder and would not let it go. Anna felt his palm against her coat and realized that touch carried a different language now. Protection and possession blurred in it. She did not push him away. Her next emotion shifted from fear into a small, reluctant clarity. She looked down at the letter and then at Luca. "Is this about what you did?" She asked, soft. "Is this about someone you hurt to save me?" Luca's mouth pinched. "I made a choice to remove a danger you didn't know about," he said slowly. "I paid people. I moved men. I burned a bridge so you could be left out of the worst." This letter was meant to explain, not to cause harm. He kept his hand light on her shoulder but steady. Mara watched them both with an expression that kept clinical detachment and personal concern in balance. Security escorted the stranger out through a side door while nurses checked the monitors and updated lists on their tablets. The rhythm of the hospital resumed around them, but Anna felt the tempo of her own decisions speed up. She had to decide quickly now. Keep the letter, hand it to security, or destroy it. Each choice would change who knew what and how the next move might be made. The corridor filled with small practical noises, footsteps, the rustle of a jacket, the soft beep from a monitor, that kept the world from tipping into melodrama. Anna unfolded the letter in full and read the final paragraph aloud, not trusting herself to keep the words to herself. "I could not tell you everything because the truth would follow you. I am sorry for taking that choice from you. If you must know, look for the mark on the left sleeve of the coat I often wear. If you forgive me, start by keeping yourself safe." She looked up when she finished. Her face did not collapse into confession. It held the outline of someone who had measured the cost and decided to act despite uncertain consent. "Mara, Anna, the patient is stable. He'll be in recovery soon. You can rest a little while, or we can move you to a more private room. Her voice was procedural, a way of offering options. Anna surprised herself by declining. "Stay here," she said. "I have to decide what to do with this." Her decision was small and concrete and felt like a hinge. Luca reached into his coat again, and this time he produced a thin gold locket Anna had not expected to see. He set it on the counter with deliberate care. "I left this for you months ago," he said. "I thought you'd want it back when you were safe. Keep it if you need something that belonged to you. Keep the letter if you don't trust me. Keep neither if you want to burn everything associated with me." He did not demand forgiveness. He offered an object with meaning attached. Anna touched the locket with one finger and felt the cool metal. The emotion in her shifted again, anger to fear to a gentler sorrow, and then toward a cautious measure of understanding. She spoke 2 short sentences. "Luca, I cannot let someone take my choices away again. If you acted for me, I need to own what you did for me now." Her voice was even. "I will not run because someone told me to." Luca's eyes softened by a fraction. "I know," he said. "I only wanted you to survive what I couldn't stop." His words were spare and concrete. They did not ask for absolution. He added, "If you decide differently, I will accept it." A nurse appeared with a paper cup of weak coffee and pushed it toward Anna on the ledge near the windows. The nurse's presence was a reminder that life continued around their private crisis. "Do you want me to keep that envelope?" the nurse asked. Anna glanced at the letter and then toward the corridor where the sunlight would strike in an hour. She realized that holding the paper kept her fixed in a choice not entirely hers. She stood up and walked to the window, carrying the envelope like a small, fragile thing. Anna placed it on the windowsill where the first thin line of dawn would fall in minutes. The action was concrete and deliberate. She did not make a speech about forgiveness. She did not hurl the paper into a trash can or tear it up into 1,000 symbolic pieces. She set it where the light would touch it and stepped back. Mara watched her hands as if reading the pulse of a decision. "Anna, Drea." Mara softly, "What you do with that is yours. The patient will be moved, and we will log that a visitor came asking for you." Anna nodded and pulled her scarf tighter around her throat. Luca did not move from his post near the corridor door. His shoulders were squared for whatever came next, but his eyes were on Anna. The chapter's cliffhanger came when the nurse's tablet buzzed again and showed a new still. A second man, earlier unseen, had stood at the threshold and then left a folded receipt on the reception desk. The receipt had the logo of a delivery service Anna recognized from a childhood errand, an old habit of sending messages disguised as tasks. The revelation shifted the meaning of earlier actions. The envelope might have been routed through someone trusted in a past life. Anna's hands went cold. She reached for the letter one more time at the windowsill, and then let her fingers rest on its edge without moving it. She had, in one small act, placed the responsibility for the paper where the light would find it and not where men in dark coats could demand it. Her next choice would be whether to accept Luca's explanation or to treat it as another departure. She did not choose loudly. Security finished escorting the stranger out and returned with reports that he had no hospital authorization and had been recorded in 2 other locations that night. The nurse read the list aloud. Anna listened. Facts provided a narrow pathway through the fog. She folded her hands together and breathed in measured counts while the corridor began to fill with staff arriving for morning shift change. Luca stepped closer at last, not to take the letter but to stand beside Anna. He touched his hand to the left side of his chest, a small habitual gesture when he needed to say sorry without words. Anna looked at him, then at the window where the envelope waited in the thin pale light. She one short sentence. "I am not handing it over tonight." Luca's response was a single word, soft. "Understood, Drea." Mara made notes and then closed her chart. "I'll sit with you while they move the patient," she said. "If anything else comes, we'll act on it together." The nurse moved to organize the corridor. People resumed duties. The hospital made practical noises. Anna left the envelope on the sill and walked back to the alcove to wait. The decision felt like a careful narrowing of future options rather than a dramatic seal. She had decided in a concrete manner, an object placed on a windowsill, and the act changed the terms of the night. Luca remained at the doorway. Mara stayed near the counter. Security stood slightly down the hall with eyes on the doors. The situation had reached a temporary resolution. At dawn, when the first real light laid a thin strip of gold across the corridor tiles, Anna sat and touched the locket Luca had left on the counter. She did not open it. She did not yet make it a symbol of anything larger. She closed her fingers and felt the cool metal and the steady inhalations of people around her. The chapter ended with Anna standing quietly and the envelope left where the sun would find it, a small, visible choice that connected the private paperwork to the public light. Anna found the envelope tucked under her windshield wiper and snatched it up while the courier lingered at the curb. Betrayal tightened her throat and made her hands small and urgent against the paper. She looked at the looping slant of the handwriting, recognized the curve of the final Y as if she had held that pen once. The courier did not step forward. Rain dotted the envelope's flap. The problem was immediate. Someone had sent words meant for her after events that might already be irreversible. She folded her shoulders against the rain and kept the envelope clamped in one hand. The hospital doors hissed behind her when she pushed through. Anna's first move was to move toward the entrance because the patient in the ICU had not been steady for hours and Mara had asked her to be near the nurse's station. Her steps were quick. Her heart felt raw in her chest, and every small sound, the slap of rain on vinyl, a distant monitor beep, pulled her attention in two directions at once. At the curb, a security guard called, "Ma'am, please leave that with the desk." Deliveries go through records. Anna, it's mine, and held the envelope higher so the courier could see the handwriting. The courier's jaw tightened. The courier kept his hands in his pockets. Anna's suspicion sharpened into anger as she read the name on the back. Luca Romano. She remembered other deliveries that had arrived indirectly before, but never like this and never at this hour. Anna. Mara's voice came from the revolving doors. She had a clipboard and her cardigan damp at the cuffs. "He's taken a turn. Come with me now." The urgency in Mara's tone pulled Anna inward. Betrayal sat heavy, but the immediate need pulled harder. She placed the envelope inside her coat and followed Mara through the fluorescent corridor. They reached the ICU anteroom where a line of chairs held sleep, dark circles under people's eyes. Anna's hands were steady in front of her until she saw a nurse glance toward the sliding doors, lower lip pressed between thumb and finger. A man in scrubs said, "We just lost some pressure in bed 3. The concrete event snapped Anna's focus. A life in a bed required her attention. She moved closer to the door and peeked through the glass into the dim blue light of the ICU. A brief scuffle erupted at the entrance. The courier stepped forward to retrieve the envelope when a hospital orderly touched his sleeve and said, "You can't leave this here." "It's hospital property." The courier brushed the hand off. Anna stepped back and folded her fingers over the paper. The courier looked at her and said, "It's supposed to be delivered to her." He nodded toward the ICU. "I'm waiting on confirmation." Anna straightened. I received it. It's mine." The courier tried to move past, and the orderly grabbed his arm. Voices rose. Syllables became sharp. "Give it to the desk." The orderly insisted, "We can't accept random deliveries." The courier shook his head and tried to pull away. Anna stepped between them and put her hand flat on the envelope. She would not let them take it. Her hands trembled. The scuffle tightened when security reached the group and asked for identification. The man with scrubs said, "Someone in ICU crashed 30 minutes ago. We need to get back in." That external demand split the moment in two. The letter and the bedside. She jutted her chin and said, "I brought this for a reason. I'm staying." The security guard frowned and held his ground. A nurse pushed through the knot of people with a clipboard and a small slip of paper. "Manifest," she said, and read the names. She stopped on a line and lifted her head. "This one came through corporate courier," she said. She tapped the paper with her pen. Anna watched the small slip like a door opening. The nurse added, "There's a stamp on the manifest, a silver signet. It looks like Medada." Romano's mark. The paper felt suddenly heavier in Anna's hands. Anna's anger hardened into a new layer, fear. If Luca had routed the delivery through his channels, someone had chosen a careful method to reach her. She had known the name on the flap for years. She had known the signet ring by sight from the few times she had seen it catch light at a table. The memory was not abstract. She could picture the ring's cold curve and the thin scar at his cheek. That concrete recall pushed a physical reaction. Her mouth went dry. She swallowed. She the nurse. Keep that manifest. I'll be back just. Mara pressed her palm to Anna's elbow and said, He's unstable. Stay close. I need you at the bedside. Anna hesitated and then moved with Mara through the glass doors. In the ICU corridor, a monitor's alarm stuttered 3 times and stopped. The smell of antiseptic snapped at Anna's senses. She had been waiting through the stretch of the night, and now every small decision mattered. She glanced at the envelope again, still tucked inside her coat. Her suspicions shifted into hurt. She thought of the promises she had once believed, promises spoken in a small flat, a hand on the small of her back, a vow to keep her safe. She had never expected protection to arrive as paperwork. From the shadows at the end of the corridor, Luca leaned with his coat collar up and watched. He did not walk forward. He waited with his hands in his pockets and his posture closed. His presence was a physical fact in the cold corridor. Anna noticed the thin vertical scar along his left cheek before she noticed his face. The scar read like a line in the hospital light. Her lungs narrowed. She wanted to turn away. Her anger returned as a tightness in her jaw. Why now? She had not invited him. She had not asked for his explanation. She moved toward the nurse's station because the slip with the signet had already been handed over there. Dra. Mara followed and said quietly, Anna, tell me if you need to step out. I can't leave the patient if they crash again. Anna reached the desk and looked at the nurse who had checked the manifest. The nurse pushed the slip toward her. This was routed through private channels. The nurse said, tapping the signet, someone signed for the courier at reception. We can show you the timestamps. Anna took the paper and noted the timestamp. It matched the late hour when Luca had disappeared days before. At the nurse's station, a receptionist opened a drawer and produced a tiny card with a printed emblem stamped on it. The emblem matched the silver signet Anna pictured in memory. Anna's hands moved on their own to touch the raised ink. The sight of the mark shifted her grief into a new direction. Betrayal folded into confusion. She, who signed for this? The receptionist read the log. Marco Romano, she said. The name landed like a small weight. Anna, is he related to Luca? The receptionist shrugged. I don't know. The courier said it came from an address under Luca Romano's name. The fact moved from possibility to a concrete link. Anna's immediate emotion tilted from fear to a brittle demand for answers. She turned to the corridor and found Luca still watching, a few paces away, his breath visible in the cold air. He nothing. Anna blamed herself first for hoping. Her voice came out rough. Luca, she said. Why did you send this? He kept his distance but lifted his chin. I couldn't come sooner, he said. The words were short and measured. I had to make sure it got to you without more risk. Anna's stomach clenched. You always knew where I was. You always knew if I was safe. Luca's eyes dropped and he brushed his fingers against the left side of his chest, the motion he made when apology cost him. She followed him when he moved toward the emergency stairwell. The light narrowed in the stairwell and the paint on the handrail had a worn shine where people gripped it. They walked without speaking until Anna stopped and turned. You sent a letter with your signet on it while I was at a hospital bedside. Did you think that was enough? The stairwell swallowed their voices. Luca's voice held a careful rhythm. I sent it when I could not be there. I left instructions. I tried to make it reach you without drawing attention. Anna's hands curled into fists at her sides. Attention, she asked. You placed your mark on it. You used channels you control. Do you think that hides you? Their exchange tightened. It became the scene where withheld facts and accusations collided. Anna direct questions and Luca refused long explanations. I kept you safe. I thought the letter might be safer than my presence. She laughed without humor. Safer. You left me in a hospital corridor while you signed your name on an envelope and hid behind couriers. That's not safe. That's control. Luca's jaw tightened. Control is different from protection, he said. I did what I thought would prevent more people from being hurt. Anna's breath shortened. You decide for me without telling me. You decide which danger I live with. She stepped closer and the rail pressed against her palm. The stairwell conversation accelerated into a rapid back and forth. Why didn't you come? Because 2 men followed me last week and I couldn't risk them finding where you were. Why didn't you tell me? I tried to. The safe chance never came. You promised you would tell me if anything changed. I tried to keep you alive long enough to decide with facts. not fears. Then bring me facts now. Anna, show me the proof you claim you have. Luca's eyes hardened. You want proof. There is a man in the city who was told to leave you alone because of me. I paid to make sure of it. I cannot show you the receipts. He touched the signet at his finger as if he could pull out documentation from the metal. She demanded clarity and he handed none. The stairwell's fluorescent tube flickered when a passing cart rolled by. That external event, a janitor with a mop bucket, broke their exchange into a new set of moves. Anna's suspicion shifted again, this time into a small measure of bargaining. If you cannot show me, at least tell me who is at risk now. Luca's face closed. He would not name names. I told you I would protect you. I meant it. Anna's lips pressed tight. Protection isn't paper with a stamp. Protection is standing beside someone and telling them everything, Luca. It's being honest when it hurts. He looked at her for the first time with an unguarded softness. I was afraid if I told you everything you would leave, and they'd find you anyway. Anna felt a sudden cold that had nothing to do with the stairwell's draft. They argued until voices around the corridor rose and fell with the night shift. Then a nurse arrived at the stairwell door and said, "Dr. Patel needs you back. Bed 3 just spiked a fever. We need both hands on deck." The nurse's arrival forced an immediate external choice. Anna's face changed. I have to go." Luca stepped up close enough that she could see the faint crease between his brows. He did not touch her. He only read the letter. She had almost forgotten the envelope in her coat. Anna pulled it free and felt the paper's damp corner. Luca's look tightened to a pleading line. "If you read it, it will explain why I couldn't risk coming sooner." Anna slipped the envelope into her bag and said, "I will read it when the patient is stable. Promise me you'll stay out of the hospital until then." He inhaled and let the air out in a controlled sound. "I won't come near the entrance," he said. "I promise." The promise felt like a small thing, but it altered the immediate geography. He would not press his presence. She stepped back and followed the nurse. Back at the nurse's station, the receptionist had pulled up the courier manifest on the screen. She scrolled and found a small notation. A private hand, off at reception with a signature block that used a familiar flourish. Anna looked at the signature and the slip and then at Jur de Mara. "Anna, Mara, if you read this and it changes how you feel, tell me. We'll decide what to do about the patient together." Anna nodded. She felt the shifts in her own emotions, from suspicion to fear to a brittle curiosity, as if each breath rearranged something inside her. She set the envelope on the counter so her fingers could keep contact through the paper. Another small event interrupted. The hospital intercom announced an incoming transfer from the emergency department. People moved with a new focus. Anna's attention snapped. Beats of possibility, decisions that could not wait. The nurse, "I need a quiet corner. I have to open this." The nurse indicated a small staff room with a window that faced the parking lot and left them alone. Anna sat at a narrow table, the envelope squared on her knee. She exhaled slowly and ran her thumb along the flap. She opened the letter. The handwriting inside was the same looping slant, but the lines were short and direct. Luca wrote in measured sentences. He had tried to arrange a way to protect her by redirecting attention, by paying off a man who had been close to those who wanted to track her, and by sending a legal statement that might distance him from people who would use her. He admitted failures in strict phrases. He had not come because his presence escalated danger. He had used his signet to make sure the delivery carried weight. He could not list the men involved without endangering them further. He apologized twice and then included specific instructions. A name to call in the city who could confirm payments, a date when a safe house had been cleared 3 weeks ago, and a small line saying he wanted her to know he had tried. The letter was concrete. It offered names and dates. It offered no absolution. Anna read and reread the lines. Her emotion moved from anger into a brittle clarity that felt like ice forming around a wound. She looked up when Jur de Mara's voice came through the door. "Any change?" "Anna, no. For now, stay with the patient." Mara nodded and left the room. Anna kept reading. The letter ended with a line cold in its brevity. "I could not be there without making it worse. If there is anything I can do now, tell me where to send proof." Anna's fingers tightened on the paper, and the letter trembled. Her certainty fractured at the nurse's station when the nurse who had handled the manifest said quietly, "There was a stamp on the courier's slip that looks like the mark on his ring, but someone else signed for it at reception. The name is Marco Romano." Anna repeated the name and felt it solidify. She walked to the window and watched the courier at the curb. He was talking into his phone and glancing at the hospital's entrance. When the courier looked up and saw Anna, he set his jaw and started the car. Anna dashed outside. Rain had stopped and the lot smelled like wet asphalt. She crossed the parking area and the courier rolled down his window. "You can't take that back now," he said. "It was logged as delivered." Anna, who signed. "Marco Romano. Where does he sit?" The courier tapped his phone and said, "Just corporate." They signed at 8:07. No other names visible. Anna stared at the courier's profile and saw the shadow of someone making a decision. Did anyone put a stamp on the manifest?" The courier hesitated and then said, "Yes, a small silver stamp." "I saw it when I handed it in." Anna turned and walked back into the hospital, her heartbeat an even, hard rhythm. When she returned, Luca waited by the emergency stairwell, hands folded, coat damp at the collar. "Did you read it?" Anna did not answer immediately. She held the letter up and let the edge catch the fluorescent light. "You sent facts," she said. "You gave names and dates." "You did not come." Luca's mouth tightened. "I thought the facts would be enough to keep you safe while I sorted out the rest." Anna stepped toward him and the stairwell shrank around their voices. "Facts are useless if the person they relate to is not told. You made choices that kept me from choosing for myself." Luca, quiet and direct. "I couldn't risk the men I bribed getting any trace linking back to you. I was afraid if I was present, they'd have used you as leverage." Anna's hands found the rail, and she gripped it until her knuckles paled. The climactic motion of the chapter came when Anna forced the question he had avoided. "Who signed Marco Romano's name at reception?" Luca's eyes closed for a breath. He opened them and shook his head. "The sign was made to obscure connections," he said. "Marco is a front. I thought hiding it would make you safer." Anna's anger returned as a quick, sharp edge. "So you chose a false paper trail over my right to know." He exhaled, and for the first time in the chapter he stepped forward and touched her hand. The contact was brief and precise, a pressure not meant to hold but to anchor. "I did what I thought would keep you breathing for another day," he said. The stairwell's light hummed. A distant call for medication change echoed down the corridor. That small event broke their confrontation. Anna pulled her hand away and said, "You did not have the right." Luca's shoulders dropped. "I know that now." He reached into his coat and took out a slim black card. "Call this number," he said. "It belongs to the lawyer who handled the payments. Ask for the receipts." Anna took the card. The paper felt cool. "If the receipts are real, I will decide what to do next." "Not you." Luca nodded. "I'll respect that. I promise I will not come to this entrance until you ask me to." She kept his promise as a test. She did not speak the word yes. Back out in the corridor outside the ICU, Jutamara placed a hand on Anna's shoulder and said, "We stabilized him for now. He slept a little, but don't delay. He may need you awake and ready." Anna felt a squeeze of clarity. She folded the letter into the envelope and set it on the narrow windowsill that faced the parking lot. The morning light came thin and amber through the high window and caught the folded edge of the paper. She left it there so she could find it later with clear eyes. Luca moved to the doorway but stopped at Mara's voice. "If you leave now, tell me where to send proof," he said in a small voice. Anna looked at him and then at Mara, who met her gaze with steady patience. Anna turned her back to Luca and walked back toward the bedside. She kept her steps even and her fingers free. At the bedside, she put both palms on the sheet and looked at the patient. The vital signs were steady for now. Jutamara checked them and said, "We did what we could. You did the right thing by staying." Anna's answer was not a speech. Simply, "I stayed. I'll read the rest when I can focus." She left the envelope on the sill where the morning light struck it. A concrete object that would have to be opened on its own timetable. Outside the window, the courier's car hissed away. The hospital shifted to daytime rhythm. A new nurse arrived with a tray. Someone opened a chart. Anna felt her emotions change in small movements. Anger cooled into a guarded curiosity. Fear edged into resolve to demand facts before forgiveness. She thought of the signet and of Marco Romano and of receipts and of the card Luca had given her. She had a list now. She had a choice to make that would affect the patient in front of her and the life she had been trying to protect. The chapter ended on a concrete act. Anna folded her hands on the thin blanket and then stood. She walked to the window and picked up the envelope from the sill. She did not open it again. Instead, she slid it into her worn leather handbag and fastened the clasp. Tamara watched her with an expression that said readiness and did not need words. Anna turned and stepped back to the bedside, where small ordinary decisions waited. Adjust a drip, speak a name, call a relative. She set her hand on the patient's shoulder and said the name in a low voice. The paper in her bag pressed against her thigh like a tangible question. And she walked back into the work of keeping someone alive while she left the letter to be answered in her own time. The paper hit the concrete and Anna snatched it before the courier reached the stairwell. Betrayal tightened her chest the way a fist tightens a sleeve. She could feel the old, familiar ache under the collarbone and the question pushing her hands to open the flap. Suspicion hardened first, then a hot anger when she recognized the looping slant of the handwriting. That anger slivered into a sudden fear as footsteps moved away down the fire stairs. She held the envelope with both hands and the rooftop wind moved the trench coat over her arms. Anna counted the breaths that followed. She had not meant to climb to the rooftop. She had gone up for air and to take the call that never came. Now a scrap of paper named a decision that belonged to somebody else, written in the same hand that had once promised protection. The rooftop glass hummed under the dawn light and a delivery van idled below. Anna looked at the handwriting again and remembered the courier in the waiting room 3 mornings earlier, and how the man had slid an envelope across vinyl chairs before he left. That earlier delivery had felt like a push. This one felt like a demand. She pressed her thumb to the seal and found it dry and slightly soft with handling. Anna thought of the envelope tucked under her windshield wiper at dawn the morning she had driven here, of the way the paper had warmed in her hand from the car heater. The memory was a concrete thing. The van idling, the courier looking at her with a small professional disinterest. She folded the note back up and put it inside her coat. Her mouth tasted of stale coffee and the scent of old paper. The decision rose in her hands before it rose in her head. Read it now or get the facts first. Anna ran down 3 flights of stairs. She kept the envelope inside her coat like a secret. The hospital staff alcove smelled of antiseptic and coffee. Tamara Patel was waiting at the supply counter with a tablet in hand and a notepad tucked under one elbow. Tamara looked up when Anna burst in, and the doctor's expression turned careful and procedural. Anna, Tamara, how did you get up there? Anna set the envelope on the counter as if doing so might make the urgency physical. Someone left this on the rooftop. Anna, it has Luca's handwriting. The name tumbled out like a stone. Tamara's fingers found the envelope, and she did not open it at once. She placed both palms on the counter and read Anna's face. Dra. Mara kept her voice level. The patient is stable for now, she said. Luciano Romano, his pressure's been up and down. He woke briefly an hour ago. I don't want you to read anything until I tell you the status. I can move you near the unit. Anna's hands found the edge of the counter and she gripped it until her knuckles shone. Tell me now, Anna. Her voice came out short. Tell me if he's awake, Mara. Mara's mouth tightened. The doctor slid a pen and pointed at a chair. Anna, sit. He spoke your name. He was lucid long enough to ask for you, but his breathing was thin. Read only if you are prepared for what it says. The word prepared landed like a physical object. Anna's suspicion broke open and something else leaked in, an H that smelled like metal and antiseptic and fear. Anna sat. The alcove light reflected off the tablet screen. She had to decide. She reached into the coat and unfolded the letter. The paper creased at the fold and a line of ink gleamed. Her fingers trembled as she smoothed the page on her knee. Dra. Mara stood close enough for Anna to feel the doctor's steadying presence without touching her. The first lines were spare, Anna, the letter began, and then moved into a short, controlled confession. Luca wrote that he had been forced to leave without explanation because staying would bring danger to her door. He wrote that he had taken a rote that put her father from a list of names he could not erase. He admitted to a choice he had made on her behalf and to a silence that had been intentional. Anna felt the words as if they were sound pressed against her ribs. The room contracted around the script. Dra. Mara read aloud when Anna faltered. He says he could not do both, stay and keep you safe. He says he chose distance. Anna's throat closed. She traced the edge of the page with a fingertip until the ink blurred faintly. The confession explained some things. It did not erase the nights she had lain awake wondering what she had done wrong. It did not change the fact that Luca had vanished from her life when she most needed someone who kept promises. While Anna read, an orderly rushed into the alcove. He was out of breath and his jacket was twisted. "Doctor, there's a man outside asking about a woman named Anna Moretti," he said. "He says he's connected to me." Romano's security refused him, but he doesn't look like a visitor. The word outside put a new weight on the morning air. Dra. Mara's fingers tightened on Anna's elbow and motioned her toward the IQ corridor. They moved fast. The corridor light felt colder after the alcove. Anna folded the letter and put it back inside her coat. The hallway filled with regulated hospital noise. The beeps of a monitor down the hall, the clack of shoes on linoleum, a nurse's low voice scheduling meds. Anna's pulse lifted with each step. Suspicion became alertness. Alertness slid into a cold steadiness as she matched Jutamara's pace. At the nurse's station a man stood, shoulders tight, eyes moving like a small animal's. "Anna Moretti." The man asked when he saw her. He did not give a name beyond an initial. "I was told Mr. Romano had left instructions. I need to know, has she seen anything?" Anna felt the demand as a prick of danger. Jutamara put up a hand. "We have hospital rules, Jutamara." Her voice had no suddenness. It was the kind of voice that kept a room from tipping. "Can I see identification?" The man fumbled a card out and the ID had a name Anna didn't recognize. He kept asking about the letter. His eyes flicked to Anna's coat. "Who are you?" "Anna, I work with legal counsel for Mir." "Romano," the man said, "you must not read this." Anna held the envelope tighter. The man leaned forward as if the paper had the answer he wanted. Dra. Mara's jaw moved slightly. She turned her body to shelter Anna. "We decide here who goes to the bedside. Dear Mara, Anna, come with me." The man protested and raised his voice. Staff members looked up. Security arrived and asked the man to wait in reception. He resisted, then lowered his head and sat. Anna felt a flicker of his desperation before the guard closed the swinging doors between them. They reached the private patient room. The door was half open and a nurse stepped aside. The room smelled of cleaned linen and a faint medicated scent Anna had learned to associate with long nights. Luca lay propped against pillows, an oxygen tube resting at the edge of his nostrils. His clothes were the same quiet luxury she remembered. A dark shirt unbuttoned at the collar, a long coat draped over the end of the bed. He looked smaller than the city photographs and more human in the halogen light. Anna stopped at the doorway. She had rehearsed what she would say in the car, in the rooftop wind, in the waiting room. None of it fit the sight of him now. Luca's eyes opened and fixed on her with a shot of recognition that made the words in her throat thin. He managed a short smile and then forced it away. "Anna," he whispered. His voice was huskier than she expected. "Luca," Anna answered, and she stepped in. Her hands wanted to reach and then to pull back. She left the envelope folded and warm in the inner pocket of her coat. Dra. Mara stayed near the doorway, watching the machines and the lines on the monitor. The nurse took a clipboard and adjusted a drip. Luca's hand lifted a fraction and Anna moved closer until she could see the thin scar at his cheek, the crease between his brows. He blinked and reached for her with a motion that was more habit than strength. "I left this to keep you," he began, then paused as if the sentence itself might summon trouble. He touched the left side of his chest with 2 fingers, the gesture he used when apology arrived without words. "Anna, why didn't you tell me, Luca?" Her voice was short. She spoke the name like someone passing a thin blade through old cloth. The motion exposed a fresh edge. Luca closed his eyes for a second. "I tried to protect you. I thought distance would do that. I was wrong in how I left." He stopped and drew a breath that rattled. "There were choices I made that you didn't ask for. I am sorry. I never wanted you to feel abandoned." The apology sat in the room like a low pulse. Anna felt anger flare sharp and quick, then fold into something colder. A hurt that wanted to be measured. "You left because it was safer for you to hide me in someone else's plan, Anna." You left because you chose to hide the truth and make me guess. You left me to believe I was unprotected when I was not." Her voice stayed even. Her fingers pressed into her palm until the skin went white. Luca's lips trembled. "Anna, listen." Luca's voice dropped. "There's a list. Names. If I stayed near you, they would come through that door. I moved everything, Father. I took the danger onto myself." He coughed once and a nurse adjusted his oxygen. "I wanted to keep you away from what I couldn't fix. The note is to explain why I left. If I could choose again." The line of the sentence broke. Anna watched his chest rise and fall. Her anger shifted. She felt the prick of fear return. The man at the nurse's station had asked about the letter. The possibility that someone had tracked the paper into the hospital made her hands want to shake. Mara's jaw worked. The doctor's eyes moved to the monitor and then back to Anna. "We refused a visitor." Dr. Mara quietly. "Security held a man in reception. He insisted he represented Mia. Romano. He about you by name." Anna looked at Luca. The small man in reception and the courier on the rooftop began to feel like pieces of the same movement. She opened the letter again with a quick motion and read the final lines aloud when Luca's hand found her wrist. "Anna, Luca." And his fingers closed around her skin with a pressure that asked for forgiveness without demanding it. "Forgive me if I made you small by leaving. Forgive me if my silence felt like betrayal. I thought I could stop it. I thought I could keep you safe by erasing myself from your days." He blinked and a single tear rolled down his cheek. Anna let the tear fall without speaking. She thought of nights when she had leaned against a sink and cried in the dark. She traced the dimple at her own mouth where forced smiles had lived. She tasted the metal of hospital air and the bitter in her own breath. Her suspicion, which had hardened into anger, softened into a narrowed focus. How to act now to keep herself and others safe. This focus slid into clarity as she looked at the machines and at Luca's hand on the sheet. "You chose for me, Anna. You decided my life without asking." The words were factual, not theatrical. Luca's thumb trembled on her wrist. "I chose for both of us when I thought I had no other way," he said. His eyes found hers with a steadiness that was new and raw. "I accept that you hate me. I accept that you might never forgive me. I only ask you to know why I left." The confession created a small shift. Surprise. Anna had expected anger to lead. Instead, his readiness to accept hatred altered the frame of the problem. An orderly returned to the doorway with a hospital id in hand. He stopped and said, "I was told to confirm." A man came asking for Anna Moretti and left when security refused him. He was sent by counsel. He insisted someone must not read the letter. The orderly's words landed like a warning. Anna felt the corridor breath with a new urgency. "Durer." Mara moved to the bedside and made a one-word decision. "We cannot leave this open. Dr. Mara, Anna, we should move him to a monitored wing. We need to control who comes and goes." The doctor looked at the nurse and then at Anna. "And Anna, I want you to tell me what you read. We will decide the next step together." Anna heard the doctor's authority and let it steady the morning. They arranged a transfer. Nurses arrived with a gurney and folded bedsheets. Anna signed a paper with a hand that did not quite feel her own. The man in reception was escorted by security back to the waiting room and made to sit. He watched Anna with an angle of pleading that turned into bitterness when he understood the hospital rules. At the elevator, Anna paused and put a hand to the envelope in her coat. She had one choice left before Luca moved to a different floor. To forgive or to leave the letter closed. Luca's hand found hers again. "Anna," he said, "do what you must. I don't get to decide that for you anymore." The words were small and clean. He let go when the nurses moved him. Anna covered the envelope with her palm and felt the crease where the ink bled slightly. Her mind lined up reasons to refuse him. The silence, the nights of unanswered calls, the small betrayals of absence. Her body lined up reasons to go to his side. The scar on his face she had once traced, and the hollow at his temple when he fell asleep. At the corridor door a sudden alarm beeped twice, a short provisional sound. A nurse checked a monitor and said, "His oxygen dipped for a moment." "Keep close." The alert flamed a new level of fear into Anna. She moved faster than she wanted, as if the speed would translate into saving something. They wheeled Luca away with the private doorway shutting behind him. The envelope in her coat felt like ballast. In the quieter waiting area, Mara sat with Anna on plastic chairs. The morning light through the high windows had a hard quality. Anna unfolded the letter once more and let the sentences settle into her memory raggedly. The confession contained something else she hadn't expected. A naming of people and a list of movements that explained the earlier deliveries. It also included a line that stabbed in a different direction. Luca had paid someone to lie to her to put her out of his reach. The man in reception had been connected to that lie, so he arranged a false absence. Anna, Luca, you bought safety with distance and hired other people to lie to me. The sentence was an accusation made quiet by circumstance. Tamara listened and then spoke in the measured way doctors do when they must be kind and honest. Anna, sometimes choices are made where all options are dangerous. Mara, that doesn't excuse not telling you, but it explains motive. We'll need to be careful about anyone who claims to represent him. Would you like me to speak with security about the man who asked for you? Anna nodded. The nod was small and definitive. The man in reception stood to be escorted out. He stopped by the front desk and looked at Anna once more. Tell him he did the right thing, he said, loud enough for her to hear. Tell him he did the right thing for the wrong reasons. Anna stared. The words were a provocation and an apology mixed. Security led him away with his head down. Anna's anger turned into a quiet that felt like decision-making. She drew Mara about the list of names. Tamara read the lines and then told Anna what hospital counsel could and could not do. They spoke in half, questions and checks. Each time the conversation landed on how to protect people, Anna felt that old thread of betrayal shift again, this time toward the problem of action. She could hate him for what he had done, or she could act to stop the danger he had tried to shield her from. A nurse came in and said, "Counsel needs to speak to you. They will meet you in security. Please come when you are ready." Another external event, one more step in the chain. Anna folded the letter, moved it into her handbag, and stepped into a recliner. She felt the weight of the day in her shoulders. The envelope was not an answer, it was a map of consequences. At the nurse's station, Mara stayed on the line with a hospital attorney while Anna sat in the security office across the hall. The attorney spoke in legal terms and asked for permission to review records. Anna sat with hands folded and let the conversation be about logistics. Outside, city traffic moved. In the small glass room, a security guard set a kettle of cold tea on the counter and offered it to her. "Anna, thank you." When she returned to the corridor, a single twist arrived. The man from reception had slipped a small folded note onto the nurse's station while moving through security for questioning. The note had no envelope. Mara opened it with gloved hands and then read aloud a line that made Anna's skin lift. "He wrote that someone else will try to reach you at noon today and that you should not be alone then. Mara read. It was unsigned. The hallway seemed to tighten in response. Anna felt a new fear, not simply of the past, but of the way the past could reach forward through small gestures. This was the mid-chapter moment of surprise. She had to decide whether to act on it. Anna made a choice. She demanded to reach out to a friend and to security at once. She refused to leave Luca without some act beyond anger. She called 2 friends and asked them to stay on short notice. She drew Tamara to stay nearby during the transfer. Each small action assembled a network rather than a single person. Her anger changed into planning. Planning shifted into a steady, pragmatic courage. They moved Luca again, this time into a monitored wing with restricted access. Nurses tightened the list of allowed visitors and updated badges. Mara sat with him for a few minutes before Anna had to leave. "He is awake sometimes, Anna, the Mara. When he is, he asks for you. He also accepted that you have every right to be angry. He me only one thing, that you know why." Anna looked at Luca and then at Mara. "Tell him I heard him, Anna, not that I forgive him yet, but that I heard why he left." The words were careful. Mara nodded and left the room. Anna walked to the small hospital window and set her open palm on the glass. The city lay pale and waiting outside. The envelope made a small rectangle inside her coat. She left the letter folded on a sunlit windowsill before she went through the sliding doors into the pale morning. Anna's fingers smoothed the paper once, and then she let it rest where the light could touch the ink. She did not take it back as she walked out. She closed the hospital door behind her and heard it click. The man from reception was still in waiting when she passed. He rose but did not follow. Anna stepped into the city morning with her scarf around her throat and the taste of daylight in her mouth. She had made a choice that morning. She had chosen to listen, to guard, and to act. She had not given herself the easy vindication of burning the letter or the immediate relief of revenge. Instead, she left the envelope where the sun could warm it, a small, factual thing on the sill. It would be evidence and a memory both, and she would carry the knowledge of his reasons like a map to how she would move forward. She did not know if she would forgive him one day. She did know she had the power to close a door and to reopen a safer passage. At the hospital windowsill, the envelope lay in the amber light. A nurse would find it soon. Mara would keep her word and protect the patient and the woman who had arrived with a name and a wound. Outside, Anna turned the corner where the city noise took the sharpness off the morning. She had made decisions that morning with other people at her side. She had resolved what needed resolving for now. She had read the letter, confronted the danger it had drawn, and chosen to act in the time that remained. She walked away with the certainty of a practical plan and the quiet that comes after a choice is made and executed. The letter remained on the sill, its ink caught by a thin morning that promised no tidy endings. Some truths reached the light late, but they still changed the shape of a life.